Okay,
So
I'd like to call this meeting to order. This meeting and all other meetings of this committee are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the press in accordance with the Wisconsin statutes, so the citizenry may be aware of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting. Call to order, roll call.
Brunner,
Here.
Rasmussen,
Here.
and Nadowski.
Here. Kind of.
On the phone.
Kind of.
Moving on to number 2, discussion and possible action on sewer rate study proposal.
Yes, you have there's a proposal that Ellers had submitted to the city to study the sewer rates in conjunction with the wastewater treatment plant project. It's something that they would be looking at with the funding for that project. It was initially slated to go through committee in May. There was a request, however, to move that up maybe a week or two or a couple weeks to tonight if we could. And the reason for that is because typically the sewer rate study would take into account our industrial service agreement that we have with our biggest customer in town. And with that agreement, they're locked in for a set number of years at a certain rate. So the study would then account for that rate and then, impact other businesses and residences, residential customers. The reason they're looking for a couple extra weeks is because we've talked a lot about the flow that comes to the city from our biggest customer, and with a potential impact on that service agreement, a certain level of flow will make that agreement void. And so what Ellers is proposing is that within the same scope of the sewer rate study, they would do what they intended to do. And I believe the cost was it was a not to exceed, or it was a roughly $8,000. But what they would do is, alternatively, they would account for what if our largest customer, if that agreement goes away, we would be looking at potentially negotiating a new set of rates too. So with that, like I said, initially this would have come through in May, and we would have probably approved it in 2.5, 3 weeks. But Ellers had asked if it's possible to get a jump start on that. So, do you have any questions with that?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. The appropriate motion then, if you're in favor of this study with this timeline, it would be a recommendation to approve the sewer rate study proposal by Ellers. And what we would do then is send it to the special common council meeting then, right after.
Okay. I will make a motion to approve the rate study for Ellers.
I'll second that. All in favor? Or any discussion first?
Question, what does this have to do with Egipure again, with their conflicting
Yeah,
influence flow?
So the agreement that we have, this is a sewer rate study. So it looks at what are the rates we charge for our sewer
Correct.
utility,
Right.
and how does that impact paying off our regular operations
Right.
and this the treatment plant upgrade. Right now, we have an agreement with Agri-Pure that says here are your rates, and I think we can only raise them up 10 cents over the life of the agreement, which is 15 to 20 years, I believe. But Agri-Pure is only allowed to send us a set amount of flow, 450,000 gallons, and they're creeping very close to that amount. And our current agreement states that if they go over that amount, 2 months in a row or 4 months out of, there's a formula.
Yeah.
The agreement doesn't say what happens if they go over. It doesn't specify if they send us more than they're supposed to. It doesn't say what's supposed to happen other than our agreement is terminated. And if that's the case, everything is terminated with the amount that they pay towards the treatment plant and the amount that they'll actually pay for their volume that they send us to. Because right now they pay the same rate per 1,000 gallons that every other residential customer pays in the city. So if they send us more flow, that agreement goes away, and then this study then would take into account what should AgriPure's rate be, because in essence, we don't really have a rate for them that's been agreed to. So it helps us out to try to get more information
But
on.
this is only in case of.
Right, this is a study to say, how are you going to fund the sewer plant and the sewer operation for the next 20 years? What should your rates be?
Okay,
Yep,
all right, that answers my question.
yep. So they're going to do it, they were gonna do it anyway, but they're gonna add sort of an alternative that says, what if AgriPure's agreement goes away? Then, what should we be looking at or take into account then? So it's sort of gonna be a split study,
Yeah.
okay?
A motion on the table and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All against? Motion carries.
Okay. Thank you.
Number 3, discussion and possible action on park restroom landscaping.
This is an item that we have bounced around since at least last summer after we built the new restroom, so I won't go into the whole history of that. We had collected quotes from Fox Brothers, Silver Mist Landscaping. With our utility contract, Thad had talked to DeGroot, who is the low bidder for that, which is the next item. Talked to them about, while they're in town, would they be interested in excavating? They came back and said that they were not interested in giving a quote. But I believe last week I had mentioned to you guys that there were still 1 or 2 companies that were out there that could potentially give us a proposal. One of them was DeGroot, who declined. The other one was Lind Landscape and Excavating, or Lind Excavating and Landscaping out of Fremont. And what they came back with was a proposal for roughly 7,200 square feet, which we figured it was about 7,000 to 8,000 square feet. But their proposal is to take out 10 inches of the existing soil there and turf, and then replace it with 10 inches. Also put a mat in there, as was requested, before they put that new soil in. And rather than sod, which we had looked at to be like an immediate barrier to hold things down, Lind had mentioned that, if you put that mat down there, that's going to probably accomplish what you need in keeping things down, but that grass seed would probably save you anywhere from $3,500 to $4,500 over sod. And Lind had been confident that if they put seed down, that within about 7 days we should be well on our way to getting that growing in there. They also said that if we would approve their proposal, that they would be in next week right away to get going on the work. So the goal we had was, worst case scenario, to get it done by Memorial Day, so the end of May, to have everything in. If we had sod, that it would be all grown in. The thought here is that then we'll have 3 to 4 weeks with grass seed. We should be in pretty good shape up at the park, and it's probably going to cost us, they're thinking about $3,500 is what Lind had proposed. And that compares to the other quotes we had that were in the neighborhood of $10, $12, $15, $16,000. So it's quite a reduction in some of the other proposals that we had, which is very good. I mean, it's not ideal that we're doing this in the first place, but it's more palatable, I think.
The only problem I have is the thought of what happened when it was seeded before in the rains and the erosion, the grade there, of course. And for the price they're quoting, and they do sod, correct? They do it. They're not just
They could
putting
do
it-
sod, yeah.
That's how I saw when we were talking before I even, heard of Lind, was the immediate, almost like putting a big mat down kind of thing, this
Right.
kind where they,
Yeah.
because we do it, then it washes away, and then we're in a mess and doing it again. I don't know what anybody else here thinks about that, but I know sod would give us a more for sure, especially since the price, they'd still be lower.
Coming back up with the mat, but I guess the one thing I would say, with the sod, we're 100%, I guess I would be a lot more sure that it's a usable surface by Memorial Day, where with the seed, we still probably want to protect it, and, you know, I guess we'd probably rather have it be a usable surface by then, would we?
And that's another good point. That goes hand in hand with what I was saying. And then
I feel
chances
like
are it does
maybe
wash away, and then we've got the
if we're
barriers
trying to
up.
hit a deadline, we may need the sod.
Yeah.
Especially with the price, there still would be less expensive.
Yeah. So when I contacted them, when I'd been in touch with them, I said that our preference was for sod. And they had said, well, we think seed could do what you need. And at the time when I talked to them, I didn't have an idea that their cost was going to be that much less than what we had on hand already. And I didn't tell them what we had really on hand. But they did say, you know, the one question they might have had is that with sod, they might not be able to get going next week right away. And they may be able to get in with do the excavating, but they may not be able to lay the sod next week.
Well, with the
So that's
sod-
one thing I could check with them too, so.
Well, who else what if we do part A with them? And who else is out there that maybe could roll out the sod and,
Yeah, some of the other ones had put in there, that they would do the sod. Fox had said it was like $5,200 to provide and install sod.
You gotta wonder if sod's available yet.
That's why I think they may have an issue with it.
That might be what it is.
Yeah,
The other thing is if you put
probably
seed,
no way cutting sod yet.
the other thing is if you put seed down and you have concern
That's
with
right.
the erosion like you talked about, Bruce, is we would do what we did last year is we put sandbags along the top of the bank. So when the water did come off the park in sheets, it hit sandbags and you direct it around so you minimize the water coming
yeah,
in.
minimize it? Still would,
You'll still get some.
there's still enough of a grade that
Yeah.
I'm afraid we'd have ongoing, I think the look would,
Yeah.
you know, because even if it's just isn't gonna get patched in or fixed? Is it, if nothing else, how about sod down the slope? And
Yeah.
but there again, if it's not available, which is a good point.
Yeah, they didn't say for sure that it wasn't available next week. They said they couldn't do it next week with sod, so.
Did they say what kind of seed they're using? Because I know some contractors use a seed that actually sticks into the ground, so if it does rain, there's not a chance of it going down.
I guess I'm open for either, though. I guess how confident are you, Patrick? I mean, that you know it's going to be a usable surface by Memorial Day, or is it just going to
Right.
be grown in?
Well, it won't be usable.
With seed, you're saying?
No, it won't be usable,
Yeah.
but it'll look like something's growing there. But
So-
to walk on it and tramps it down, no, it wouldn't be.
So why don't we, Dad's got a lot of experience with the mats that they roll out, whatever you wanna call it. You see it all over in commercial construction, highway construction. Would that not be a smartest thing to keep erosion and to,
Put erosion mat down over the top instead of mulch.
well, I don't know, what do you think would be if sod's not available, but we don't want it to wash away any part of it?
I think you have to have something with the erosion mat type over the top instead of straw. Because straw, we saw last year when they did put it down, the first wind, it blew everywhere,
That's what I mean.
you know.
But some of those, they seed it like normal, and then that mat gets rolled over.
That's the top part.
Yeah.
And that's about $1 a square yard. How many square yards do we have?
Square feet, we've got about 720.
7,500.
So you got
somewhere in
about,
there,
you got
looking.
just short of 100 square yards.
Okay,
So you probably talk a couple $100 just to roll that out.
that'd be a good insurance policy.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I mean, they only
then-
need the stuff that's good for the degradation, you know, through the summer, and then it rots and decays and goes away.
So if they could provide that, I'm sure they're,
Yeah,
why don't they seed it and
Sure.
do that kind of a thing?
sure. And I could check in with them on both of those things. I know for sure the excavation to pull out what's there, they're proposing to pull out more than what the others had proposed to pull out. So they're talking at least 10 inches, and it's significantly less. So that's the main part with them. And then if we have to talk to them about the seed or, you know, maybe a sod or an extra matting,
How much,
we'll still be good there, yeah.
how much topsoil was put in originally? If even 6 inches, what do you
I think
think?
it was set up for 4 to 6. It's typical what we put in.
Okay. 'Cause then I started thinking, maybe they don't wanna go down 10 then. If you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
maybe they do just wanna do the 6 that we requested and put the barrier, cause what are you digging up and disturbing more of? Is that,
Maybe.
Well, you're putting the mat down, so I think that kind of takes that one away, because they're gonna put a protective mat in there.
true, but disturbing stuff that, yeah, let's just stick with
I
what,
would rather see us get more topsoil on top in between the barrier and the grass, because that should only benefit us long term.
I think I agree with that. That's the question I would ask them. Why did they go to
I
10
guess,
instead of
One
6?
thing I'm thinking about, and I don't know that if we can do this or not, Patrick, but would it make sense for us to, you know, if say we wanted to move forward with Lynn and then give you the ability to figure out whether or not there was some type of, I guess, erosion prevention grass seed mat that they could put down, you know, and just give you the ability to negotiate that piece.
Yeah. You could do that, and that'd be fine.
That way you could keep it moving, you know, on the timeline you're trying to hit.
Yep.
And, you know, I don't think, I can't imagine it would be that much difference in price to be able to do something like that. 'Cause I know they do it all the time on the highway, so.
Yeah, well, and the big thing will be working with Lind. Whatever you're gonna do is probably gonna be a lot less expensive than what the other proposals were anyway.
Yeah.
And maybe even if it's not a lot, it's still less expensive.
why don't we, entertain a motion to have them add that on in, which we know is not gonna be exorbitant, to roll out the erosion mat over their seated and come on in as soon as they can.
I like that. It gives us kind of a safety net,
In lieu of mulch.
but yet we're
You wanna
not
do
pulling
both.
up the program for the sod. So,
What would you recommend?
I would do the EMAT, but in lieu of mulch. I wouldn't have them mulch anything.
Okay,
Your EMAT is your mulch.
yeah, that,
Yeah, you don't want to double up on it.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Are you making a motion then, Keith?
I can, so I'll make a motion to go with Lynn for the park restroom excavating and seeding, and then also adding to that Patrick will be allowed the ability to negotiate getting the anti-erosion mat also involved with that project.
Okay, I'll second that. Discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Patrick, one thing, so I can hear Bruce pretty good and you pretty good, but I'm having trouble hearing Scott, so I apologize if I'm.
He's not saying anything. Hey,
I didn't say too much, Keith.
Okay, it just, anybody besides Bruce and Patrick I'm getting bits and pieces, but not the whole thing, so I
Okay.
apologize
Okay.
in advance.
okay.
All right.
Moving on to number 4, discussion and possible action on contract B15 bids and utility and road construction.
So we had, and I'll probably flip it over to Thad if we need to for a little bit too. This is the 3rd Avenue Lakeshore Drive work that we had put together and had bid out. 3rd Avenue is for the sewer pipe for Agri-Pier, go from an 8-inch main to a 12-inch main. And then Lakeshore Drive is to coincide with a potential development of the gas station. The little bit of the problem we ran into was both of those projects are going to be on different timelines. And what Thad was able to work on with the low bidder, DeGroot, was rather than have one project sped up or one project wait, we can get an approval or an award of this contract. DeGroot can come in May 11th. They can get working on the 3rd Avenue sewer pipe, which probably can't come soon enough, but May 11th is good because in the meantime we're just jetting 3 times a week now just to keep up with Agri-Pier to keep their flow open. But with the 3rd Avenue, we can get going on that work and also have a potential change order with DeGroot that would push off Lakeshore Drive to at least August 1st. And what that does is it buys a window of time then, because we are working on a developer's agreement with that development to cover a significant portion of the actual construction. And then, it backs it up to, where if there's construction on that site later this summer, that it would coincide with their work as well, or it would at least be close there. And then it also allows us on Third Avenue just to get going, which, again, on Third Avenue, then that would be, that's a TID eligible project, so the TID funds are gonna be paying for that. But what you have here is, you've got the bid tab in your packet, which lays out the 3 bids that we got. And then you also have a draft change order, which would establish that for, I think it's not more than $1,000, DeGroot would have a mobilization charge or a remobilization charge, which actually probably isn't too bad.
That includes all their subcontractors too, because that's it's not only DeGroat's cost, but there's asphalt and concrete guys that have to come in, so they have three people really have to move in twice, which in the way it was awarded, or the way it was bid, was they would come in and they would do all the work in one or 2 days. The subs, so the subs will have to come in a second time.
Did you catch that, Keith?
No, I could not hear that.
Okay. It basically, what Thad had just said was, with that change order, the subcontractors would end up, the contractor and the subcontractors would end up they'd incur mobilization charges if they had to come back later.
Seeing that on there, it's only $1,000. So
Right, and what Thad said was that includes all of the contractor and the subcontractors too.
Okay.
And that's something that would be,
That seems like a reasonable amount for the amount of, yes,
And
movement they would have to do.
right. And it would be, that would be charged to the development then too.
Yep.
If that goes through, that'll be in that formula there. So the recommendation would be to approve or recommend approval of B15 by awarding through DeGroot. And then you'd probably want a second motion then after that to recommend approval of the change order then. If that meets
Patrick,
your,
I do have one question, just because of course I drive that road every day now.
yep,
Third Avenue further down the way, we got about a 3-foot diameter pothole there. Would there be an opportunity also to maybe have you negotiate just a quick fill on that while they're out there?
yeah, I'm sure there will be, because as part of there'll be a pre-construction meeting before May 11th. And we do have, there's some storm sewer catch basins downtown, and there's some pavement on Second Street that we were gonna have them take a look at too, now that they're in here.
Okay, all right.
And so that was part of the give and take and getting them to agree potentially to come back later at a reduced amount of cost, was that we may have the restroom that they could work on, we'd have these other projects that they could potentially jump onto, or at least give us a quote for,
Okay.
So, yeah. But we'll mark that on the list though, for sure.
Yeah, if we can just get that on your radar, that'd be a good one.
Any other questions on B15?
No, I will make a motion though to recommend DeGroot get awarded the bid for the 3rd Street project.
Contract B15.
Yep. Yeah, we'll do contract B15, and then we'll do a second motion that does the change order then, if that's
So
okay?
motion for DeGroot to win the B15 contract,
Okay.
or be awarded.
You have a second?
I'll second.
More discussion? Otherwise, all in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Carries.
And then you'll probably want another motion then on the
Yes,
recommend
I will
approval
make
of
a
change order
motion
number
to
1?
Also approve the change order number 1 to the B15 contract for DeGroot, a lump sum payment for remobilization.
Go ahead.
I'll second that. Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay,
Moving on to line item 5, right?
yeah, and actually we'll skip number 5. We talk about May meeting schedules because we'll be talking about it with City Hall too, so.
Okay. So number 6, such other matters as authorized by law.
I don't have any.
The only one I have is just as if you've been driving around on East Alfred Street, you see the counties in there starting all the topsoiling. So they're anticipating on finishing the landscaping. And then when the landscaping's done, I think we've talked about this already, but when they're gonna pave the surface there, they're gonna pave that in conjunction with the entire road going out to Gill's Landing. So when they're coming up through Gill's Landing with the final surface, they're just gonna keep coming right down the road. So there's no joints and it's just a smooth transition into everything, so
Yeah.
they are working on cleaning all that up and getting that ready to go.
Okay.
And they'll take that to what intersection? By the church?
Lincoln,
To Lincoln Street?
yeah, Lincoln Street is already paved north and south. They'll just blend it in at that intersection.
Okay.
I can make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, I just made it and you seconded it. And all in favor of adjourning? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
8:02.